3A, if you could read that, please.
3A, transmitting informational communication relative to an update on American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, funding.
I guess, Tim, you're up. Can you...
Through the chair, this is an item that was submitted through the Chief Development Officer, but he is on time off this week, so he's unable to be here. The key, and I think the memo speaks for itself, is it gives a broad overview of the process that the city went through, the distribution of the funds, the status of the funding. As you know, the deadline for ARPA funds is December 31st, 2024 for commitment. We then have 2 years through December 31st, 2026 to spend down those dollars that have been committed. The city has been working diligently. The city manager has been talking to kind of multiple folks along the way to understand the concerns, understand the opportunities here. And the expectation is we will be in place to commit all of the funds by the end of the fiscal year, that we will be in place to spend all of the funds by, the calendar year. We will be in place to spend all of the funds by December 31st, 2026. So we think we're on a trajectory to move the dollars and move them successfully out the door.
Okay, thank you. Donna, do you have anything on this? Councilor Bergman?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When this meeting was scheduled, as chair scheduling it, I was unaware that Mr. Dunn was having a marriage and honeymoon, which he's certainly entitled to have. And there's no reason that this item necessarily has to conclude today, because there are a lot of people that have a lot of interest in the item, and there's a lot of financial concerns regarding it, and I get that. So, as a suggestion, perhaps this item can be continued or held, but I'd like to still see if I can proceed with a few questions. I know Mr. McGurthy might be able to help us with some of the financial information, even though the policy information is probably fairly much exclusively in Mr. Dunn's domain. So through the chair to Mr. McGurthy, if I might, what's the percentage of the ARPA dollars left versus the overall ARPA amount that was originally allocated to the city of Worcester?
Through the chair, so the allocation was $146 million, which came through two routes. One is a direct outlay by the federal government. The other is a pass-through from the federal government to the state, to the city, due to the fact that there is no Worcester County. Normally those funds would have gone to a county government, but since that didn't exist, it came via the state through to the city. So of those $146 million, we have expended more than half at this point. We have committed almost the remainder. Others are in the pipeline. We have budgeted 100% of the funds. There are certain projects that are paired with outside funding. The affordable housing projects are one, for example. So we're working with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to execute contracts to ensure that those affordable housing projects are able to move forward with ARPA support while they await other state and federal funding allocations. And then there are certain projects that are either out to bid or are in the process of being contracted. The law department has been working incredibly diligently to process these contracts that we need to get done, but frankly, there are hundreds, if not more, resulting from all the various awards and projects that are part of this overall funding stream. So I would say we're almost at 100% commitment. We're at 100% budget. We're almost at 100% commitment. And expenditure, we're probably, I'd say, closer to 2/3, perhaps.
The other question, if I may, Mr. Chair, and if you would allow me a little leniency on a few of the financial questions, I'd like to also know whether or not we've done any sort of calculation or comparisons to the other cities and towns that are similarly situated to Worcester with the ARPA funds, and as far as how their allocations have gone, and towards which types of organizations they've gone to. I do know we did receive a rather elaborate report, which I do appreciate, and I looked hard. It was a lengthy report. I looked long and hard to see if we did any sort of analysis comparing Worcester to other cities similarly situated, and I didn't see that. So I don't know if maybe the Research Bureau may have some information with respect to that, or whether or not it was included in that report and somehow I missed it.
Through the chair, I'm not aware of any comparisons at this point. I believe there was a review done at the very beginning of ARPA to determine how other communities were going about distributing funds, but I don't think that's been updated with the results of that distribution.
I'm wondering, as I perhaps have a few more questions, if the chairman would consider a chairman's order to see if we can update and analyzing what other cities similarly situated to Worcester, size-wise, have done with their funds. And what I'm looking for, really, more than anything else, is a comparison between what types of organizations. When I say types, I mean what's the nature of the organization as far as what's in nonprofit purpose, and what percentage of monies have gone to those organizations and other similarly situated cities and towns. I'd like to see where we line up with that. I know people do ask questions about the processes, and I know without Mr. Dunn being here, we're probably limited to more of a conversation about numbers than we are about policy. But if the chairman would consider that, I think it would be helpful, and hopefully we can continue these items for when Mr. Dunn is available at the next Municipal Operations Subcommittee meeting.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if you'll make that chairman's order at the end of the meeting or at the end of this discussion, but I do appreciate that. And Mr. Chair, if you would indulge me just 1 or 2 more minutes with a couple more questions with Mr. McGurthy, if I may, through the chair to Mr. McGurthy. Where are these funds kept? Do we earn interest on these funds? Are these funds that are non-interest earning? In other words, the ones that we're not spending money down yet, we have up to 2 years to spend it down on, as long as we identify where the source is by the end of this year. Where does that money sit with the city of Worcester?
Through the chair, the ARPA was unusual in that it was a forward payment to the city. In most cases, federal grants are reimbursement-based. This was not. It was a forward payment. The funds are essentially commingled with other city funds in the sense that the city does not maintain many segregated independent accounts. Most of our revenues are all commingled. We track it separately through our financial system. We manage it separately. But when we, for example, pay out on a grant or some kind of project, those funds are coming from the city's broad funding. We then do the accounting to account it back to ARPA, as the case may be. It does earn interest as part of the city's general holdings. We, after the fact, go through to look at how we distribute the interest earned over a period of time to the various funds within the city. We are doing that with ARPA to try to confirm exactly how much interest is kept in the account. I think it's important to note that under the ARPA regulations, those interests are general revenues of the city. However, the city manager is committed to keeping those funds for ARPA purposes and will retain them within the ARPA account to continue the work that ARPA is intended to do here within the city.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McGurthy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. Thank you. Councilor Clorio, anything? All set. I guess I think one of the issues in obviously I don't think McGurthy, I don't think this was pretty much your area when it comes to like the process of who's getting the funds and how it's set up to be. I know there was on here they had 4 primary categories, and I think within these categories there I'm not sure if it created some barriers or some issues on making sure some of the funds went to some of the agencies and businesses that were within these 4 categories, which is, there's a page on this. It's under the ARPA specific regulation and guidance. The ARPA final rule is understanding, like, 1, to respond to the public health emergency or Its negative economic impacts include assistance to households, small business, and nonprofits, or aid to impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. So it gives you a breakdown. I guess and it's understanding that there is a breakdown, but there were some agencies that just didn't get, other agencies had received more money, but the percentage that they were working with was far less. So for instance, say the population they're working with that was impacted the most was 15%. And this was at a meeting that I attended. But the other population, their impact was 85%. So the COVID impact affected them 85% of their population of the other people they're working with. But because the 15%, and Harley, if you want, you can correct if I'm wrong, the 15% there had a higher budget. They were working with more people, but still that number was still 15%. The issue is that the smaller agencies had an opportunity to grow and build out some more and help out more of the population that was affected more, didn't get a decent amount of what they were asking for. So say one agency had got like say 50 or 60,000, this other agency got 20 to 30,000 when they were the one that had the most impact. Their population they were working with had the most impact. So that's something that I know when we were talking with Peter Dunn on, is understanding how these issues come about, and understanding through this process there's a lot of barriers, and unfortunately we're at the point where now there's no way to like fix this, and as we go forward, who knows if we'll ever be in this situation where there is ARPA money again, and we're in this situation. You know, hopefully we're never in a pandemic where we're in need of this money and this help, but it's understanding that there are these barriers here and these opportunities to help a higher population, and we're missing the mark. So that's just concerning. So, you know, maybe we can hold this like Councilor Bergman has suggested, just to get some more information on, you know, to his order as well. But I think through all this, I think that's one of my key concerns, is understanding what can we learn from this going forward, and when we have opportunities to disperse some type of funding or resources, you know, to really look into it and dive in deeper to make sure that it is spread out, you know, equally, and that everybody has an opportunity to grow within their business, but at the same time have it to be able to impact those that need it the most. So if the other councilors don't mind, I believe it's we should hold this item.
Through the chair, so just so I'm clear, is the request to hold both 3A and 3B, both the informational communications relative to ARPA?
Correct.
Okay, and if you could just clarify, are you also bringing forth the chairman's order to request a report comparing ARPA funding of Worcester and similar sized cities, if that's correct?
Yes, that's correct. So do we need a roll call for that?
Through the chair, we don't need a roll call, but you can certainly do one if you'd like. Councilor Ojeda?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
And Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Can you read the next item?